Hello, knowledge seekers. In this episode of 20-Minute Books, we will dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This best selling book is not just another guide about money and investments. Instead, it paints a vivid picture of how Kiyosaki's two dads, his biological father, the educated but poor dad, and his rich dad, the father of his best friend, shaped his understanding of wealth and success. Within its pages, you will find a blend of autobiography and personal advice outlining how you can break free from your day-to-day dependencies on a paycheck and become financially free. Despite its straightforward storytelling, the book promises to shift your perspective, revealing why the rich get richer and how you too can unlock this seemingly elusive cycle of wealth generation. Robert Kiyosaki, the man behind this transformational guide, is a renowned investor and entrepreneur with an estimated net worth of over $80 million. His Rich Dad brand has churned out more than 15 financial self-help books, selling over 26 million copies worldwide. So, whether you're stuck in the corporate rat race, curious about how the rich accumulate wealth, or looking for a fresh take on investment, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is your gateway to the realm of endless opportunities. Tune in as we distill the essence of this eye-opening book in just 20 minutes. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and the middle class do not. Introduction. Unlock your financial wisdom. Master money. Don't be mastered by it. Reflect for a moment on the wisdom your parents imparted upon you when it came to money matters, careers, and life in general. Did they encourage you to pursue good grades, higher education, and then land a well-paying job? It's the conventional life script many parents pass on to their children, and countless educators uphold the same sentiments. But pause and ponder. While you sat through countless hours of schooling, how much time was dedicated to teaching you how to earn and handle money effectively? If your experience was similar to mine and many others, the unfortunate answer is likely a big fat zero. Not to worry, you're in good company. It's a disconcerting truth that our formal education system often overlooks this crucial life skill, financial literacy. The knowledge about accumulating wealth and making it work for you is certainly out there, carefully preserved and passed down within affluent families through the generations. But how can you tap into this well of wisdom? Greetings, my friend. My name is Thomas, and you are about to embark on a financial enlightenment journey with our 4-minute take on Robert Kiyosaki's best-selling book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In the moments ahead, I will introduce you to some of Kiyosaki's most profound stories and practical money lessons. Stay with me. It's a ride you won't want to miss. Part 1. Wealth builders don't chase money, they make money, chase them. Before diving into the crux of our financial lessons, let's take a quick detour. The Wayback Machine has us traveling to the 1950s, into the childhood of none other than Robert Kiyosaki himself. A young Robert, barely 9, had a burning ambition, shared with his friend Mike, to grow up rich, wealthy enough to live life on his own terms. But like many dream-filled kids, the how-to of this ambition was a puzzle they were yet to solve. After a humorous and unsuccessful attempt to mint their own money by melting toothpaste tubes, they decided to consult the older, supposedly wiser generation, their dads. Now, here's where things get interesting. Robert's own father, a well-educated man yet financially poor, doled out the advice we've all heard at some point. Work hard in school, earn good grades, and secure a high-paying job. It's the echo from our growing years, isn't it? But as Kiyosaki would later discover, it's not entirely sound counsel. If you strictly follow such guidance, you could end up spending your life toiling away endlessly, enriching your bosses, the government, and bill collectors, while your own pockets remain surprisingly light. Essentially, Robert's poor dad unwittingly coached him to become a cog in the relentless wheel of the rat race, where you work for everyone but yourself. Sadly, This philosophy is pervasive, driven largely by fear, societal pressures, and ingrained beliefs that equate a steady job to a wealth guarantee. Many conform, study hard, work even harder, and though they may evade the clutches of poverty, they fail to significantly grow their wealth. Thankfully, there are those who resist these deeply seated norms, the individuals who comprehend the mechanics of money creation, growth, and preservation, the truly wealthy. People like Mike's father, Robert's rich dad, who became a pivotal financial mentor to both boys. And what was his advice? Initially, none at all. In an interesting twist, Mike's dad offered young Robert a job with a paltry pay rate of 10 cents an hour under the guise of teaching him about money. A few weeks into this exploitative arrangement, a disgruntled Robert confronted his rich dad, accusing him of breaking his promise and ready to quit. The seemingly exploitative work arrangement had taught him nothing about money, or so he thought. But there was the unveiling, the first major lesson delivered with a knowing grin. Life, Robert Kiyosaki was informed, has a tendency to knock you about, and hustling for money won't necessarily make you rich. Hence, the revelation: wealth builders do not labor for money. This naturally provokes a question. If the wealthy don't toil for their money, how do they amass their fortunes? Is it a result of fortuitous lottery wins or unscrupulous means? The journey continues. Part 2. Financial Enlightenment 101. Spot genuine assets and make them your wealth generators. So, how do the affluent accumulate wealth? The secret isn't in some shady dealings or striking it lucky with a lottery win. Instead, they master the art of making money work for them. They avoid splurging all their earnings on frivolities and luxuries, and wisely channel a portion towards investing in a variety of assets. Then, instead of sweating it out for cash, they relax and let their assets do the earning for them. But hold on, let's rewind a bit. Remember, in our story, Robert was still a young boy, unacquainted with the term asset. But Mike's father, the rich dad, was about to enlighten him on this crucial concept. In a pivotal conversation, he made the boys understand that the wealthy acquire assets, while the less affluent, often misguided, end up accumulating liabilities thinking they're assets. To clarify, he defined an asset as anything that fattens your wallet, while a liability does the exact opposite. It drains your financial resources. A simple yet profound distinction which most people fail to comprehend. Let's illustrate with an example. Now, we often regard a house as an asset, don't we? In reality, it's probably the most colossal liability you could own. Purchasing a house generally commits you to a lifelong slog to settle a 30-year mortgage and recurrent property taxes. Essentially, it's a money extractor, not a money generator. A mortgaged house plays a double whammy against your financial health. Firstly, it's a guaranteed significant monthly expense for the next 360 months, a classic hallmark of a liability. Secondly, the money put into those 360 payments could have been invested in far more profitable assets that add to your wealth. In the simplest terms possible, the rich dad imparted the core lesson to the boys. If you aspire to be rich, identify genuine assets and buy them. If you spend your life acquiring liabilities, wealth will always remain a distant dream. The rich dad elaborated that a person with lesser means uses their earnings to cover immediate necessities, like rent, taxes, and food. Someone from the middle class has similar obligations, plus liabilities like a mortgage, student loans, credit cards, and other forms of debt. And the wealthy? They don't rely on a regular salary. Their assets generate adequate income to sustain them, with a surplus left to reinvest in things like stocks, bonds, or rental real estate. This reinvestment further raises their income, perpetuating a cycle where the rich keep getting richer. I'm going to reiterate this crucial insight as it's the cornerstone of financial growth. If you manage to keep your liabilities and expenses low, you'll have a surplus to invest in assets. This is how you make money work for you. Adopt this principle, and you'll soon witness your wealth multiplying. Part 3. Master the art of minding your finances. Make your money, not just your employer's. At this juncture, a protest might be brewing in your mind. It's easy to disparage stable, rat race jobs while emphasizing the need to accumulate assets, but where's the capital to purchase these assets going to come from if you don't have a job? Should one simply expect a windfall out of thin air? Hold on. No one's suggesting that you bid adieu to your day job. Not at the moment, at least. What Kiyosaki does underscore, in his third key lesson, is the concept of minding your own business. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean meddling in others' affairs. Rather, it implies taking charge of your personal finances and ensuring that you're making money for yourself, not just for your employer. Put simply, minding your own business equates to generating income through your collection of assets, not merely through promotions, bonuses, and pay hikes. In the realm of personal finances, your profession and your business are two distinctly different entities. Your profession is what you dedicate around 40 hours a week to, in order to keep the lights on, put food on the table, and cover other living expenses. It usually bestows on you a specific title like software engineer or marketing manager. Your business, conversely, is where you invest your time and money with the objective of amplifying your assets. So, how does all of this relate to Robert's trajectory towards financial prosperity? When he was young, his poor dad advised him to seek out a secure and high-paying job. His rich dad, however, advised him to start accumulating assets. Which advice do you think he followed? That's correct. The rich dad's guidance. Robert established his first business venture at the tender age of 9, where he rented out his friend's sister's comic books to neighborhood kids. He simply collected the earnings while others did the work. As he grew older, he did have a regular job. Indeed, he put in extended hours working for major corporations like Xerox and Standard Oil of California. All the while, he was diligent in keeping his expenses and liabilities in check, prudently investing a portion of his salary, and amassing a robust portfolio of income-generating assets. That's how Kiyosaki honed the skill of minding his own business. Of course, he did have a job, but what eventually led him to wealth was the growth of his assets. His experiences of working for corporations and investing his earnings cultivated in him a mindset where he regarded his assets as his own employees. Every single dollar invested in assets was working for him, multiplying his wealth even as he slept. Enticing, isn't it? So, if your aspirations are to build wealth, embrace the same mindset. Chances are, your regular salary won't lead you to true wealth, even with the occasional promotions and bonuses. What your salary can do, however, is provide you with the means to acquire assets that will eventually multiply your wealth. The key takeaway here: learn to distinguish between your profession and your business, for it's the latter that's going to make you rich. Know which one's which. Part 4. Navigating the tax labyrinth and legal jargon. How the wealthy keep a step ahead. As a school-going boy, Robert was fond of the enchanting tales of Robin Hood and his band of merry men, the gang of vagabonds who took from the wealthy to distribute among the poor. This story excited him, but his rich dad begged to differ. In his perspective, Robin Hood was nothing more than a rogue. Rich Dad blamed the Robin Hood narrative for instigating the tax system that he thoroughly detested. In his view, just like Robin Hood confiscated wealth from the affluent to distribute among the impoverished, the government aimed to redistribute wealth in a similar manner. However, Rich Dad pointed out the irony. The actual execution of this system didn't work out as planned. In Rich Dad's observation, it was the middle class that bore the brunt of taxes, not the wealthy. The affluent, armed with their financial savvy and strategic resources, deftly dodged the taxation bullet. One of the shields the rich utilized to safeguard themselves from hefty taxes was the tool of corporations. A corporation is permitted to expend pre-tax dollars and is taxed only on the balance post all expenses. However, for individuals, the order is reversed. They're taxed up front, and only then are they allowed to spend the remaining amount. This difference is monumental. Think about it. Wouldn't it be great if you were taxed only on the part of your salary that you didn't spend? By protecting their assets within the legal framework of corporations, the wealthy evade tax obligations that the middle class and poor individuals usually need to honor. But the benefits that a corporation offers to the wealthy don't end with just tax evasion. When you establish a corporation, it places a cap on the amount of money you stand to lose if your venture goes south. To put it in perspective, if you as an individual default on a loan, you'd be forced to sell your possessions, declare bankruptcy, or fulfill whatever else the law mandates. However, when a corporation fails to repay its debts, the stakeholders lose their investment. But that's where the buck stops. No one swoops in to seize their personal possessions. No one reclaims their homes. In essence, corporations offer the wealthy a safety net, allowing them to reap substantial financial gains without risking commensurate losses. The crux of this lesson is simple. By mastering the intricacies of the tax code and the legal system, the affluent manage to stay one step ahead of mechanisms designed to restrain their financial growth. Part 5. The Overlooked Education. A dearth of financial literacy in our learning systems. Let's rewind a bit and revisit Robert Kiyosaki's narrative. During their formative years, Rich Dad welcomed Robert and Mike into his professional world, providing them with an unrestricted backstage pass to his business transactions. They were privy to his meetings with financiers, lawyers, and accountants, gaining insight into the dynamics of successful entrepreneurship. This immersion into real-world business dealings turned out to be an intense learning curve for the boys, but it also sprouted unforeseen issues. The skills they were acquiring from Rich Dad made it increasingly challenging for them to maintain their interest in formal schooling. The message that they consistently received in school was that academic diligence and hard work were the foolproof routes to success and wealth. Strangely, the importance of financial literacy seemed to be a concept that only Rich Dad recognized. Schools seldom teach children about concepts like savings or investments, leaving them in the dark about critical financial phenomena like compound interest. A glaring testimony to this is the fact that teenagers today often exhaust their credit card limits without fully understanding the implications. This glaring gap in financial intelligence education isn't just a problem for the younger generations. Even adults with high levels of education often find themselves making ill-informed decisions with their money. Consider this. A significant chunk of the population doesn't have a retirement plan in place. In the United States, half the workforce doesn't have pensions. And among those who do, nearly 75 to 80% have ineffective pension plans. Evidently, our society has done a disservice by inadequately equipping us with the necessary financial knowledge. However, acquiring financial literacy forms the bedrock of Kiyosaki's teachings. So, what's the way forward? Self-education and kickstarting the formulation of a financial strategy. Part 6. Embark on your financial education journey in 3 steps. Evaluate your present financial status, establish financial objectives, and develop the financial knowledge necessary to achieve them. The journey towards personal wealth is a road that can be embarked on at any phase of your life, although undeniably, the sooner you begin, the more advantageous it is. Naturally, kickstarting this journey in your 20s provides a higher likelihood of amassing wealth than starting in your 30s. Regardless of your current age, embarking on your wealth-building journey can be simplified into these 3 basic steps. Firstly, take a hard look at your financial situation. Secondly, carve out financial goals. Lastly, garner the necessary education to reach them. Let's delve a bit deeper into these steps. To begin, conduct an honest appraisal of your current financial standing. Based on your current job, evaluate what kind of income you can realistically anticipate now and in the future. Equally important is to assess what level of expenses you can sustain over the long term. You might just realize that the dreamy new Mercedes you've been eyeing is beyond your affordable range at the moment. Remember, honesty is the cornerstone here. Avoid the temptation to consider money that you don't currently have in your account. Following this, you can chart out realistic financial goals for yourself. For instance, you might aspire for the Mercedes to be within your financial means in 5 years. Robert Kiyosaki's wife Kim, for example, patiently waited 4 years before purchasing her Mercedes with the income generated from their apartment buildings. The next step involves building your financial intelligence. Treat this as an investment in the most valuable asset at your disposal, your mind. Begin your quest to understand how to manage money efficiently. Let's say you're wary of rejection. You could consider working briefly for a network marketing company. While the financial remuneration might not be lavish, the experience will undoubtedly equip you with invaluable sales skills and self-confidence, serving as useful tools in your future endeavors. You can further enhance your financial education in your leisure time. Enroll in finance-related classes and seminars, delve into books focused on finance, and make an effort to network with industry experts. Just to reiterate, the steps to financial literacy are evaluating your current situation, setting financial goals, and building the financial intelligence needed to fulfill them. With these building blocks as the foundation of your financial strategy, there's a promising chance that you'll amass considerable wealth over time. And perhaps, sooner or later, park that dreamy Mercedes in your own garage. Part 7. Armed with financial intelligence and bravery, the rich are capable of creating wealth regardless of circumstances. In this section, we'll explore the fundamental mindset shift required in handling financial affairs. If you're keen on changing your existing financial situation, it's pivotal that you reconsider your approach to managing your finances. The most critical transformation you likely need is in your relationship with risk. In reality, it's not always the most intellectually gifted who climb to the top. It's often the ones bold enough to take chances. Whatever you choose to label it, audacity, courage, or sheer nerve, an inherent willingness to accept risk is a trait universally shared by the wealthy. But why is this the case? Well, if fear remains an unconquered adversary, you're liable to miss out on lucrative opportunities in life. This is why those who are academically inclined or highly intelligent often grapple with financial struggles. Their fear of societal criticism deters them from stepping off the conventional track, commonly known as the rat race, to pursue wealth. Furthermore, their acute fear of financial loss restrains them from investing in assets like stocks. They fail to recognize that successful ventures inevitably require a degree of courage. This leads us to the conclusion that financial intelligence is a cocktail of two key elements: knowledge and bravery. It's this potent blend that differentiates the rich from the rest of the populace. And there we have our fifth lesson. Financial intelligence empowers the rich to seemingly create wealth irrespective of their circumstances. They have the knack for identifying opportunities, the understanding to react appropriately, and the audacity to pursue them relentlessly. To an outsider, it may appear as though they're merely fortunate, but the truth is, they're masters of architecting their own fortune. By being privy to Rich Dad's business dealings, Robert and Mike absorbed a lesson that no school could impart. In the real world, success isn't simply a byproduct of hard work. It demands a fair share of courage. When you meld bravery with financial acumen, you acquire the ability to quickly recognize opportunities and seize them effectively. In a manner of speaking, you're able to virtually manufacture money. Part 8. Rather than treading the safe path, consider investing your capital in stocks, bonds, or tax lien certificates. Let's delve deeper into the concept of risk in this section. What exactly does taking a risk signify in the realm of finance? To start with, taking a risk implies moving beyond the confines of traditional safety with your money. When you park your funds in standard checking or savings accounts, you're essentially opting for a balanced and secure approach. Contrarily, if you choose to put your money into stocks or bonds, you're venturing into riskier territory compared to your usual bank accounts. However, these investments carry the potential to generate significantly more wealth. In some instances, such as with stocks, this wealth accumulation can occur within a relatively brief period. Alternatively, if the stock market isn't your cup of tea, there are multiple other investment options that can incrementally enhance your wealth over time. Consider real estate or tax lien certificates. For instance, with tax lien certificates, interest rates range between 8% and 30%, a stark contrast to the average American savings account interest rate of 0.21% in 2013. It's essential to bear in mind, though, that greater potential returns come hand in hand with a higher level of risk. For instance, with stocks, there's a slight possibility of losing your entire investment. However, if you shirk away from taking the initial risk, you can be sure that significant returns will remain elusive. Therefore, it becomes apparent that embracing larger risks and managing their associated consequences is a prerequisite for generating a sizable income. This is precisely the kind of risk-taking that Rich Dad would encourage. Part 9. Don't merely labor for earnings. Working for knowledge is far more significant. So far, we've discussed the importance of making your money work for you. We've explored financial intelligence, and we've recognized the value of audaciousness. But Rich Dad still has another crucial lesson in store. Upon graduating from college, Robert secured a steady, well-paying job almost instantaneously. For many, such a position would be a dream realized, and that's precisely how his academically accomplished but financially struggling dad perceived it. As we've seen, poor dad held the unwavering belief that a secure career and continuous hard work formed the foolproof recipe for amassing wealth. However, Rich Dad, and subsequently Robert, had a different perspective. After about 6 months, Robert relinquished his job and enlisted in the Marine Corps to learn how to fly. While poor Dad was utterly confounded, Rich Dad applauded him. And why was this? Not because he endorsed recklessness, but because he comprehended Robert's strategy. Robert wasn't in pursuit of a consistent salary. He was on a quest to acquire knowledge. He sought work that could impart valuable lessons. Rich Dad had instilled in him the importance of possessing a wide-ranging knowledge base for anyone aspiring to create wealth. That's why Robert was working with a focus on learning, not solely for earning. After all, his assets would take care of wealth generation. Poor Dad, however, couldn't fathom this approach. From his perspective, Robert's conduct was the antithesis of conventional wealth-building wisdom. Being an intellectually gifted and highly educated man, possessing a PhD, poor Dad believed that specializing in a specific area, rather than acquiring a broad spectrum of skills and knowledge, was the key to riches. In the academic sphere, as you ascend the educational ladder and amass more knowledge, your area of study becomes increasingly narrow. Similarly, many doctors are keen to specialize in a specific field such as orthopedics or pediatrics as soon as they graduate. This approach to specialization may be appropriate for some. Yet, it didn't benefit poor Dad, as his PhD never significantly amplified his earnings. On the other hand, Rich Dad, who had a diverse knowledge base despite not completing 8th grade, found it greatly beneficial. That's why Rich Dad motivated young Robert and Mike to spend time in various departments of his business empire. Over time, they gained experience in diverse sectors, including restaurants, construction, sales and marketing, accounts and reservations. The intention wasn't to identify one particular field to build their careers in. Instead, it was to equip them with a plethora of skills and knowledge essential for cultivating wealth. That leads us to the 6th and final lesson. Don't merely work for earnings. Working for knowledge is far more crucial. Final summary. And so, we come to the conclusion, wrapping up the 6 fundamental lessons from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Keep in mind that it was these very guidelines that formed the foundation of Kiyosaki's impressive wealth, tallying to an approximate net worth of $100 million. Does this statement have you all ears again? Excellent. Let's retrace our steps for a brief refresher. The first lesson asserts that the wealthy aren't obligated to toil for money. If your entire life revolves around the rat race, it certainly enriches someone, but that someone isn't you. It's your employer who truly reaps the benefits. So what's the countermeasure? This brings us to the second lesson. Expand your financial knowledge, pinpoint genuine assets, and invest in them. Implement this by abiding by the counsel from the third lesson. Retain your regular job, reduce your expenses, while simultaneously nurturing your personal enterprise to generate additional revenue. The fourth principle indicates the importance of mastering the tax system as it enables the affluent to retain their wealth effectively. The fifth principle emphasizes that accumulating wealth requires audacity. If you possess this quality, you can exploit life's opportunities to create money in virtually any situation. Last but not least, the sixth principle encourages working with a motive to learn, and learning extensively. Specializing should be left to those pursuing doctorates and medical degrees. Well then, that concludes our journey through Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm glad you joined me, and I hope it stirred up some excitement about embarking on your wealth-building journey. If you're eager for more success-driven stories, I recommend exploring 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. Looking forward to meeting you there. Thank you for joining me today on this journey of learning and discovery as we explored the insights of another thought-provoking book in our growing library of knowledge. If you've enjoyed our time together, please take a moment to follow our podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and share 20-minute books with other knowledge seekers. Your support truly means a lot. Don't forget to join me again in the next episode, where we will delve into another enriching book. Until then, happy reading and happy listening.